been a dream of mine to drive an old air-cooled or oil-cooled 911. I've driven the 964, but I've never driven this model here. So it's early on a Sunday morning and the roads are relatively empty-ish. So the plan for today is to just put some power down, open the taps up, and maybe see if we can grab a coffee towards the end of the video. But ultimately, just have some fun with this vehicle. Now, I put a post out a few weeks ago on Instagram asking if anybody would be kind enough to loan me their car so I can do some coffee run videos. And the owner of this lovely 911 Super Sport, Ben, has come forward and said, yep, you can drive my car for a few days. Here's the keys. So a massive thank you to Ben for loaning me this car. I promise to take good care of it. So as I say, it's the first time I've driven this generation, and my first impressions are that the steering is quite heavy. It's a really small unit. The gearbox, the 915 gearbox, is going to take a little bit of getting used to. It is a little bit notchy. Sometimes it struggles to get into gear. So it's just, I think it just takes a little bit of getting used to, but I am getting used to it the more and more I drive this vehicle. It gets lots of attention everywhere it goes. People stopping to take pictures, it's breaking necks, it really is. And people are stopping their cars, they're shouting across the road. I even had one guy in the city centre the other day run up to me and say, get out, that's not your car, it's my car. The joys of driving in the city centre. I think he was a little bit drunk. So the pedals are kind of like offset, so I'm bending my legs kind of off to the left to hit the pedals. They're pretty hard work. The clutch is super heavy, so that when I need to get clutch control, I need to completely lift my heel off the ground in order to be able to control that clutch effectively. Otherwise, I just find myself stalling the vehicle. It's very heavy to lift, and as I say, I've got to completely lift off my heel. You wouldn't need to do that in a modern vehicle. And the gearbox, as I mentioned, is the 915 gearbox. It's not the easiest gearbox to operate. The ratios are very different. I can find myself in a modern car, I might need to drop down into first or second when taking a corner. In this car, I can very much find myself easily taking corners in second or even third gear. As I'm going to demonstrate here, I'm doing 30 miles an hour in third gear. Absolutely no problem around this corner. And the steering, well, the steering is something completely different. You don't have the luxury of power steering. You're instantly aware that you've got to work so much harder when going around a corner at slow speeds. It makes you feel like you've had a workout when you stop driving it. And the torpedo wings at the front of the vehicle, well, they are just stunning. They are like nothing else that only a period 911 would give you when looking down out of the windscreen. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm not venturing too far today, just along the local roads, which will allow me to gently exercise this 3.2 litre engine. A little bit about the vehicle. It's a 1985 produced. It was delivered in 1986. It's a 3.2 litre engine which produces, I believe, 230 brake horsepower, which in its day was pretty quick. But by today's standards, well, you don't feel like you're going faster. You never feel like you're going fast in it, to be honest with you. But it's not about that. It's about the charm of the vehicle. It's about when you get in this vehicle, it's an occasion. You don't need to go fast in it. And the sound of the vehicle, again, is like nothing else on the road. It's an oil-cooled or air-cooled, whatever you want to call it. And it just has a low sort of grumble, even at idle, which I could listen to that sound all day long. Now the car, as you can see, is sitting on these Fuchs wheels or Fuchs alloys, and the centers are red. This is how the owner bought the vehicle. I do prefer the black centers, I'm not going to lie, but it's not my car. But I secretly think that the owner prefers the black centers as well, so you might be getting them changed soon. I guess it's subjective. Each person will have their own opinion on that. The red, yeah, it does look retro, it does look cool, but I just think the black centers look cooler with the polished, thick rim. just shifting through the gears. You've got to be really precise with it, otherwise you will find yourself grinding those gears, which is not what you want on this gearbox. Apparently, I've read up that this gearbox is a really good gearbox, but it does need to be regularly serviced or maintained. I'm not an expert on that. I'm sure some of you guys are. So this 911 is nearly 38 years old, and an average car from around about 1985, 1986 should have about 200,000 miles on it. This car has done a quarter of that. This is reading 57,215 on the speedo cluster, and everywhere on the vehicle, the dashboard, the seats, the steering wheel, the clusters, the rear seats, you know, all of the interior trim panels, they are immaculate. They look like a car that has only done 57,000 miles. You can tell that it's been stored well over the years, because you know the dashboard doesn't show any signs of any creaking or cracks or anything like that. It's just an altogether solid car. The owner has found an absolute gem. Now, I can talk all day long about water-cooled Porsches, but the air-cooled, the oil-cooled stuff is just completely different gravy. They have a sense of occasion getting into a car like this, just to simply go to the shop to get some milk, is so much more rewarding than just getting in, say, my 997 or my 981 or a 991, because they don't really feel like an occasion. They feel good, but this feels like a proper occasion. It's brutal. You have to really try to drive the car, which is what is more rewarding. And it's already getting me thinking in my head about what direction I'll probably be going in for one of my next 911s, because driving this has just turned my head so much. If you think you need a McLaren or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini to turn heads, then maybe you do. I'm not saying they won't, but a classic 911 will do that just as well, just as much. There is just something so relaxing and therapeutic about driving an air-cooled Porsche. I think I'm falling in love. I'm going to have a real problem when it comes to giving this car back to Ben, because I just don't want to let it go. The noise that the air-cooled produces, the motions that you have to go through in order to, grinding the gears a bit there, to drive the car properly. I've got to get myself a classic 911. I have to, at all costs. I might sell just everything I've got and just have one of these. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.